gracias. Perfecto, gracias. Okay, so let's switch to English, right? I keep forgetting. Welcome to the first CNCF event in Barcelona here in 2026. It's been a break, but we're here and we're back. So thank you all for coming. We've got a full house today. Everybody clap, please. Hey, thank you. Thank you so much. So we're here at ERNI. Thank you guys for having us today. It's lovely to work with you. And let's go through the basics real quick so we can get to the talks. Basically, we have a code of conduct. As always, it's basically, be nice to each other, be respectful. If you have any questions or if you ever feel like you're in an uncomfortable situation or someone is coming at you in a way that you don't like, you can always reach out to us. Right now, of the staff, it's me and Pablo over there. You can always come discreetly if you feel something's not working the way you want it, and we will help you with it. But honestly, in my time here, which has been over 3 years already, we have no issues, so you can guys feel pretty comfortable. And again, we're always here to help you if anything goes the wrong way. But again, be nice to people. It's the only thing we ask for, really. Again, thank you, ERNI, for having us today. Moving forward, we're having 2 talks today. We're going to have a talk about AI and Python here by Raffaele, who is over here. Say hi to Raffaele. And also myself, I will be talking about OpenTofu. Who likes tofu? Who's vegan here? I am not. But I will be talking about it. And it's been 2 years since tofu was born. So I kind of want to go over that. Our next event is happening next month. We're going to have at the global offices, which are in Poblenou. We're going to be talking about OpenTelemetry specifically. It's an event dedicated to OpenTelemetry. This is the second one we do dedicated to OpenTelemetry. These are really fun. So please show up. And if you have, we're already full for the schedule on this one. We already have all the talks for this one. But if you want to contribute any talk for any future events, please take a screenshot of this or take a picture, because we're always looking for new speakers. So we are lovely. It's lovely to have you on. So if you have anything to contribute, please do. Talks are not required to be at any level specifically, like beginner, intermediate, expert. It really doesn't matter. If you have something to share, please come, and we will love to have you on. And with that said, we're over. Rafael, if you can come over, it's your time. Sí. ¿Inglés, en español? Las hacemos en inglés mayormente, porque el público es mixto. Vale. Pero como tú dices, no la pongo.
La había preparado en español, pero la puedes hacer en inglés también si quieres.
Realmente nosotros no lo exigimos, so, como tú prefieras, pero si tú lo puedes en inglés, even better. Ah, ya, sí.
Okay, let's start. I can do the talk in English. If anybody has any question, I can switch to Spanish or Italian if you prefer. Also Napolitan, it's available, as you wish. So before starting, I want to ask you a couple of questions. Raise the hand who knows Java language. Okay, so very good. Raise the hands who, if anybody knows Spring Framework. And raise the hands if anybody knows Spring AI. Oh, much less. Okay, so it's a good talk for today. So when I started to investigate artificial intelligence, I was a bit upset because everything I was finding on internet, examples, tools, libraries, they were all in Python. Now, for an expert programmer, it's not a problem to write a Python script, integrate into Java application, then use it. But it's not quite the same. So there are many reasons for what we want to, for example, have a direct integration with artificial intelligence and Java. Performance, latency of network, memory, etc. So I was wondering, how can I do that? So the first natural step was to go to the official page of OpenAI, one of the most famous artificial intelligence models that we have in the market, and I found a library in Java. So I added my dependency in the POM XML. Then I found also an example of the code. I copied the code, I pasted it, perfect, it works. But the problem started coming up when I wanted to switch model. So what I did, I wanted to try investigate a new model, for example, the one from Google, Gemini. I did the same. I went to the Gemini official page. I found a Java library, but everything was different. Different classes, different method, another API. I had to write all the code from scratch. I was investigating and was changing model quite often. I didn't want to start from scratch anytime. So I was wondering, what can I do? And then I started wondering, why not using Spring? Spring is a very mature framework. It's on the market since 20 years. I think the first version was in 2004. There's a lot of functionality that we programmers know very well, like dependency injection, declarative configuration, observability already built in the code. There were other frameworks also from Java, very famous, like Micronaut or Quarkus, but they are not on the same level yet as Spring. And plus, Spring has a huge community, very collaborative in the Java ecosystem. So I thought, why not using all these advantages? I present myself. I'm Raffaele. Hi to everybody. I work as a principal software architect in ERNI. I'm programming Java since around 25 years. I know what you are thinking. I'm quite old, I know. I'm not young anymore. Well, for me, it was quite natural when I saw the first version of Spring AI. I think around 6 months ago, were published and tried to investigate to try how it was working. So I decided to do this talk. First of all, what is Spring AI? Spring AI, it's a module of Spring, a framework built on Spring Boot, and it's sharing with Spring Boot the opinionated approach. What is an opinionated approach? It means that all the values to configure this module use already a default value, a value which is the most common that you can use. You still can change it, but you don't have to configure it from scratch everything to have an application up and running. So what we are doing after a few hours of configuration, now you can do it in a few minutes. Spring AI has a lot of advantages for the use of the creation of AI. You have chat embeddings, you have templates for prompting, you have vector search, you have function calling, tools, MCP. Now we're going to see all these things in details. For example, let's start simple. I want to create an application, a Java application, it's implementing a chat. It's taking a message from a user, it's sending it to an LLMs, getting the answer, and return it. How can I do it in Spring AI? Well, first of all, I have to include a dependency in my POM XML. In this case, I was choosing OpenAPI. Then I have to add to my application YAML file the OpenAPI key, which is compulsory. It's obligatory to use the API of OpenAPI. Then in the code, I created a controller. I used the chat client, which is an object that comes from outside from the library of OpenAPI. I don't have to program it. I don't have to implement it. I have just to use it. I implement it. I use it in my endpoint. I take the message of the user, send it, call the call method, and then read the content and return it back. That's it. In more or less 10 lines of code, I already have an application integrating with OpenAPI and functioning as a chat. What's happened when I want to change a model? For example, I want to use Gemini instead of OpenAPI. Then I change the dependency in the POM XML. I'm changing from OpenAPI to Gemini. Then I change my application configuration, switching from the OpenAPI key to the Gemini project ID. And that's it. I don't have to change any line of code. The code that was working before with OpenAPI, it's now working with Gemini. Let's do it a bit more difficult. Let's take a step forward. Now my application, it's asking a question to OpenAPI, but it's always like the first question. It does not retain the context. But what can I do to have an application that it's taking memory? It's memorized all the conversation. Let's see how can I do it with Spring AI. So first of all, I can use an object which is called chat memory. It's an object that using already the OpenNAT approach that I was mentioning before. So I can specify the maximum number of messages that I want to store, but I can also not specify it and keep it the default. I think it's 20 messages. I take this chat memory object, I pass it an instance of the repository of the database where I want to store my messages, all the question and answer with the LLM, and then I add it as an advisor. Advisor, remember this word, we will take it back later. Then when I'm calling the chat client, I'm passing also a parameter which is the chat ID that represents my chat. If I want to, for example, manage several conversations in parallel or with several users, I need an ID to identify them. And that's it. With these 3 simple steps, I now have an application with a chat with OpenAPI with a memory function that is storing all the conversation. Let's make it a bit more difficult, another step forward. I want to implement a streaming response. So now my application, as it is, I'm using a standard REST API. So every question, every request that receives, it's waiting for the answer for the response from OpenAPI, and then it's give it back all in one shot the answer to the user. But this could be a bit tedious for some users, especially if the answer is very long, has a lot of text. So to improve the user experience, I could stream the response and respond word by word as soon as I receive it from the AI model. How can I do it? So I can add one of these 2 dependencies, or I add the WebFlux dependency. WebFlux, it's the framework that is implementing the reactive programming inside Spring. Or I can use the starter web from Boot. If I'm implementing a Spring Boot application, web application, most probably already using the second one, which include the first one. So I don't need to add the first one. The second step in the code, what can I do? I have to change my previous method. So instead of calling the call method, I now call the stream method, and I have to change the return object. Instead of a string, it will be a Flux string. Flux is an object that is managing the asynchronous communication by default in WebFlux framework. And the other step that I have to do is to change my endpoint into the controller. So I change, of course, the return object. Instead of string, it will be a Flux string. And I have to change the media type. Now I will use a text event stream value media type, which is the media type that it's used by default for the SSE, the server sent events. In this way, the browser will know that it does not have to shut down the channel, but wait for all the data coming back from the endpoint. And that's it. Now I have an application it's also streaming the response in the answer of the chat. So every time that we introduce a new technology in our application, we are also introducing new vulnerability problems. And AI is not an exception. So as a programmer, we are used to face, for example, SQL injection. When we wait we sanitize the input of the user for some strange SQL. But what happens if a malicious user is trying to, with a prompt, to change the behavior of our AI model? How can we protect from this kind of behavior? Well, we can use the concept of personas in Spring AI. What is it? I can define a default prompt, a system prompt, which has the highest priority in my system. So anything that the user is inserting in his user prompt will not override this standard behavior. This way, I'm safe and I can have a predictable behavior in my system. This is a screenshot from the OWASP website. It's a screenshot about the homepage of all the most common LLM vulnerabilities that we can face in our integration. Prompt injection is just the first one, but we have many others. this lets us understand that we need some mechanism of protection against this kind of vulnerabilities. We need something that will stay between the user interaction and the LLM to control and validate this kind of workflow. We need a kind of guardrails that will stay between the user question and the output that will, the input that will arrive inside the LLM, but we also need to check the output of the LLM. This kind of guardrails in Spring AI are called advisors. The advisors are this kind of object that stay between these two flags. So we can take the question from the user, doing a validation, some health check, and also stop the workflow and not sending anything to the LLM if something goes wrong. And we also can check the other workflow, the output of the LLM, checking it, validating it, and if we want also to strip out or modify this kind of question. So let's see, for example, another typical example in the LLM integration. For example, if the user is putting some personal data in his question, and we don't want him to do that. We know that all the company behind the most common LLMs are using our data to retrain these models. We don't want to filter this kind of information. What can we do? We can use, for example, an advisor that has, for example, another LLM model, maybe a local model, to keep our data inside our system. We can give this kind of prompt as a default prompt, so we can instruct this model to be like a safety guard to check if there is any data which is personal, name, surname, home address, any kind of credit card number, any kind of sensitive data, and do a validation and tell us if this happens or not. To implement this, we can implement the interface in Java, which is called Call Advisor. It's part of Spring AI. We can create another chat client with this system prompt, call this system prompt, check the result. If the result is OK, then go forward. We just go to the next step, which can be another advisor or the call to the LLM. Otherwise, if the validation goes wrong, we'll stop the workflow. We don't call the LLM, and the data stays safe in our system, never goes out. Then we add this advisor into the chain of advisors. This is a chain. You can add as many advisors as you can. And that's it. We have already protected our application from any kind of sensitive data filtration. Let's add another feature to our application. Let's add a RAG, a retrieval augmented generation. What is a RAG? Well, in simple words, it's a kind of enrichment of the question of the user to have a more context-aware answer from the LLM. How it works? When the question of users come in our application, we can take, for example, like a document, a Word document, a PDF, any kind of document, split it into a bending, which is a vectorial representation of the data, store it into a database, and any kind of question that the user asks to us, we can enrich it with the embedding with the data that we prepared in our document, send it to the LLM that has all the data that can use to have a more appropriate answer and receive the answer. I don't know, an example could be, for example, if we want to create a bot from HR in our company, we can give into the vector store all the data of our company or frequently asked question with all the data of our company so that the LLM can answer with some more predictable behavior, already knows what to answer. Let's see an example. In Spring AI, we have an object which is called vector store. It's an object by default into the framework of Spring AI. We can, for example, take a PDF with all this information, get the information from the document, split it into tokens and into embeddings, and then store it into the vector store. Now we have our data ready in the vector store to be used. In the second step, well, this is another function from Spring AI that I found very useful, has a built-in ETL, extract, transform, and load data. I can basically extract data from any format. It supports PDF, Office documents, HTML, plain text, markdown, almost any kind. So I don't have to write any business code, any business logic, just use the reader, the proper reader, configure it, and read the document. And then at the last step, I have to add the advisor to the list of the advisor, as we saw before, and that's it. Now, every question that the user is answering will be enriched from all the document and sent to the LLM. If I want to change the behavior, I have just to change the document and load it back to the vector store. I don't need to change no line of code, zero, just the document. Now let's call about AI agent. It's a buzzword nowadays. What are agents? Well, basically, the word of AI, it's split in two main categories. The AI workflow, which are structured, rule-based, very predictable, but not very flexible. On the other hand, we have the AI agents, which are autonomous, can take independent decision, can decide to use tools or not, and why and how to use them. They are very autonomous, but potentially we could lose control of them. Another very important piece of the puzzle is the model context protocols, which is a standard protocol for the communication between our application and the AI models. They are more or less like, as a metaphor for us, for programmer, as a universal API gateway for the AI models. They're like the REST standard of the LLMs. They can allow the LLM to discover which tool exists, like the service discovery, for example. They can let the LLM understand how to call them, like an OpenAPI specification, or execute the right operation, like an API request. And they allow the LLM to use the responses of these tools to enrich the responses, like the orchestration between several microservices. So how it works? The user asks a question to the LLM. The agent will look how many tools and which tools has now configured, decide which tools to use and how to use them, enrich the answer, and then give the answer to the user. But we have a lot of MCP already available open source on internet. This is the page of GitHub Model Context Protocol servers. There are thousands of them for any kind of use case. You have MCP for, I don't know, read documents from SharePoint, from Google Drive, anything, you name it. But what happens if I want to use my own API with LLM? If I want that an AI model will use my application to do stuff? Well, here I have an example. I have a simple booking service, a service that I wrote in Java to, for example, retrieve booking from an hotel and cancel them. I have simply to add an annotation, the annotation tool, with a brief description of what this kind of service is doing, and then add this class to default tools in our chat client. And that's it. Now the application already knows that can, if we want, to use my own API to cancel a booking or to retrieve this kind of information. But let's see a brief demo of what I'm explaining. Here I have an application that represents a hotel booking system. On the left side, I have my hotel assistant connected to OpenAPI. And on the right side, I have all the bookings that I have in my database. So let's try, for example, to ask if I want to cancel a booking. Now the LLM, the Spring AI is taking also the RAG. I have prepared the document with all the instruction about the term and condition, and it's sending it back to the LLM. The LLM is asking me, as I instructed into the document, please give me your booking reference number, your name and surname to identify your booking, and also all the terms and conditions that I put in my document, if there is kind of cancellation fee or anything else. So I write, for example, the book number 1000. I am John Doe. Now Spring AI is taking my question, is enriching with the RAG, is sending it back to the LLM. The LLM is searching if it has some tool to do what I'm asking for, and it used my tool, my API, to retrieve from the database all the data of the bookings. He found it. It's number 1000. Your name is John Doe. The status confirmed. This is your period of staying, the room type, etc. So it's giving me all the cancellation details, and it's asking me, are you sure that you want to cancel me? Because I instructed it in my document, please ask always confirmation, never cancel without asking. So I'll say yes, cancel it. Now the LLM is again looking into the tools to check if we find any API to do this operation, and it's checking in the RAG if it's permitted. And yes, he said, okay, I found the tool, I canceled your operation, it's done. Now, if it's true, I update the data in the view, and The first is canceled. So the LLM used my API to change the data in my database without instruction. I didn't say how to use the method. He already understood by itself just with a simple conversation. I can also use other potentiality of the LLM. For example, I can use it in another language. We know the LLMs already know many languages. So for example, if I say, quiero cancelar otra reserva. So I use it in Spanish. I even didn't say that I want to change language. I didn't write any location file, any language file in my application. It's all in English. It's the LLM is doing the translation online in real time. And as you see, all the information that I wrote in my document in English are now translating in Spanish, and all the conversation can go on in any other language known by this LLM. Let's coming back to the presentation. Here you can find the link to the repository. It's open source. It's ERNI Academy. We have all our project there. You can see the source code, the full source code of this application. I want to talk also about observability, which is a very interesting topic. If you know Spring Framework, you know that there is already a very good observability feature built in without writing any line of code. And this applies also to Spring AI. So we can just enabling the actuator function, and we will have any kind of metrics about our AI functioning. We can know how many tokens were used, how many requests we sent to the model, which model I use, if I did some vector search, and which, and why, and when. All the information here in JSON format, and then are easily integrated with any monitoring and checking tool already on the market. I want to close this talk with this last message. Well, AI isn't magic, but it's an incredible tool. It's very versatile. Really, creative is just the limit here. And I encourage you to explore it, to build it, to use it, to try it, and overall, enjoy the journey. Thank you. I think we have a few minutes for questions. If anybody has any question about the demo, please.
¿Es posible, en lugar de utilizar los modelos a través de la API online, descargar el modelo y los pesos y ejecutarlo localmente con
Sí.
Spring AI?
Sí, Spring AI es compatible por defecto con un montón de modelos ya en el mercado y también con Oyama y con otras API locales, así que te puedes instalar, desarrollar un modelo local y usarlo tranquilamente de la misma forma con el cual es el otro. No tienes que cambiar nada, solo la configuración. Sorry, can you raise the voice a bit?
How your LLM calls to your application in the example? With help of MCP server?
Exactly. It's using MCP, the Model Context Protocol, and I don't have to expose my application internet because using this protocol, my application is sending back the data as a client, so I don't need to be a server.
But what exactly LLM does? It's like writing SQL statements or like command line instructions. What exactly LLM sends to Java?
Good question. As I instructed and I annotated my API, the LLM is using my API because the tool for this application, it's the one that I use the annotation for. Let's take an example. It's using this method. So it's not accessing directly my database, otherwise it would be a security issue for me. So it's using only the things that are annotated as a tool. So I can expose any kind of API, and the LLM is doing a call to this.
But actually, LLM is just text response, and it means that the Spring AI takes this response and it tries to find the right thing to call it with help of.
Maybe I have a diagram to explain it better. When I have a chat request from the user, then it goes to Spring AI. Spring AI is calling the AI model. The AI model is thinking, do I need any tool? Yes, maybe I need a tool to cancel the booking. It's asking to Spring AI, can you use please this tool and call this method? Spring AI is doing the call to the tool. get back the response and send it to the model. The model take the response of the tool, take the question from the user, mix them up, and give the answer. Any other question?
In this model, how do you, when you make this call to the API, how do you manage the authentication there? How do you ensure that you are not accessing an API that is not intended to be used by the user? How do you control that?
Do you mean the API of the LLM or the API of my application?
Of the application.
Well, it's upon me, of course. Everything is an internal call. So as you see, the AI model is not calling the tool directly. It's called the Spring AI. So it's my application. It's actually calling the tool. And the authentication with the model is done by the standard authentication that we have with this model. For example, if I have OpenAPI, I'm using the token of the OpenAPI. In case of Gemini, I'm using the project ID of this kind of model. So it's upon the model. And everything is built in. I don't have to write any line of code.
I didn't see when you build this tool, how do you configure the tool to use specific? Because imagine you have multiple tools which are different applications. So this Spring AI application is called Polar applications, which may have different credentials because of different applications. So I didn't see how it's possible that you configure these tools to use a specific credential because you want them to use, like for instance, only give this tool view capabilities. You don't want that to be able to change anything. So you need to provide it some specific role in the tool. So how that works?
Let's see if I understood your question. If, for example, it's up to me because it's my application that's calling this tool. It's not the API. If I want, for example, this to be only a read-only tool, well, as you see, I didn't put this tool annotation on my service. I created another wrapper class, which is the class that I give as a tool to my OpenAI model. So this class is including only the method that I want to expose. If I want this method to be read-only, I will expose a tool only a method which is read-only. If I want to be a writing, I can use this one. But I'm sure that this method cannot be called by anybody outside, which is not the model that I authorized to use. This is not exposed. It's not public. It's inside my application.
I have one question. Sorry if it's not this stupid. How you do it with multi-platform applications? For example, if you have locally and you have web, you only have one source in the Spring AI in the web, and you have the call from the local, or you have separated in another platform only for local, which I don't know, kind of thing.
So if I understood correctly, it's to call several AI models, right?
No, if I have one version on web, one version on local, it's only interesting to have it Spring AI and web, then the local calls to Spring AI, or to have something locally in the app.
So I had an example here. For example, let's see this one. Let's see, this was the RAG. Default advisor, this one. For example, here I create an advisor that is connected to OpenAPI, but inside the advisor, I have a chat client that its user a local system. So I have two instances of the chat client. One that is calling OpenAPI outside, and this is called a local system. I can do the same, just splitting the class, put in another part of the code, this local chat client system. Any other question?
Do you know what is LangChain or LangGraph in Python?
Sure.
And do we have something similar in Java?
No, there is actually a library which is called Lang4J, which is a Lang4Chain for Java, but it's another kind of library. So Spring AI is not using this library to implement this function.
But if you want to orchestrate several agents or create some kind of agent pipeline, is it possible to do it with Spring AI? Yeah, in Spring AI you can have several models. The example that I'm just explaining, I'm using two different models, for example.
Well, if you want, you could, for example, integrate a Lang4j model using this library with a Spring AI workflow. That's possible, but you're using two different frameworks.
Okay, thank you.
Tengo dos preguntas. Una referida a la parte de multiagente, cómo sería la implementación, si se puede hacer, no si necesariamente darla. La segunda pregunta es claro que a la parte de producción hay algo que se está ganando al trabajar en Java. La pregunta es, ¿qué sentís que falta todavía este framework que está en Python?
Vale, pero multiagente, un poco como decía antes, ¿no? Puedes crear múltiples instancias, por ejemplo, 10 chat client, cada uno con un modelo diferente, enviar tus preguntas y lo que contesten de forma síncrona cuando contesten. Esto no es un problema, puede ser de muchas formas, ¿eh? No es obligatorio hacerlo de esta forma, sí. Esto era una forma sencilla para explicarlo, para hacerlo. Y bueno, comparando Python con Java, bueno, en Python tienes muchos frameworks, mucha librería diferente. En Java no tenemos mucho, tenemos Lang4j, como estábamos diciendo antes, y Spring AI a mí me parece más completo, simplemente porque tengo más cosas, ¿no? Tengo una serie de funcionalidades que sí, lo podría haber implementado yo, pero si ya lo tengo hecho con 3 líneas de código, ¿por qué no usarlo, no? Entonces, esto ha sido para mí el framework en Java para AI más completo que he encontrado hasta ahora.
What if we want to secure our tools in Spring? In case of multiple models, we want this model access to our tool. Is there any layer of control?
Yeah, actually, I just gave you a very simple example of the tools, but the tool annotation, I have maybe here an example, has a lot of parameters more. For example, the example I showed you was using the name of the variable to understand what variable means. But if the name is not very self-explaining, or if I want to give some kind of validation, I can use a tool param annotation inside the sign of the method. So I can indicate, for example, this variable time you will receive in this kind of format, or any other thing. For example, I can say that this variable is not required, it's not compulsory, so the LLM can use it without sending the email. I can go much more deep into, I can fine-tuning much more than I show you. You can check the official documentation. Here you have all the parameters that are possible to configure, and there are much more than I showed. Just to be brief and fast, I did the most simple possible. Okay.
Sobre la memoria, te quería preguntar, lo que has enseñado al principio, ¿esa memoria afecta al contexto de cómo va a contestar el LLM a los demás usuarios o cada memoria es para un usuario diferente?
Sí, como hemos visto en la memoria había el chat ID, entonces obviamente depende de mí gestionarlo de forma correcta cuando lo voy a programar, pero si asigno un chat ID como es esto para cada usuario, obviamente será separada. Y cuando el LLM va a sí, aquí va a llamar el LLM, pondrá toda la conversación, solo la mía, solo la que pertenece a mi chat ID, no todas.
Referido a lo que es memoria, ¿qué otra estrategia, además de el máximo de los últimos mensajes, se pueden aplicar sospechosamente?
Bueno, normalmente esta limitación, a veces es una limitación también económica, porque más preguntas yo pongo, quiere decir que el contexto que envía el número de token es más grande y voy a pagar más. Por esto puedo querer limitarlo, sino porque no poner infinito, ¿no? Que me cuesta, pero sí.
Estrategias de memoria de largo y corto plazo, el contexto de lo último que sería este caso. Hay que saber si había otro tipo de implementaciones de memoria.
Bueno, el objeto chat memory tiene muchas más configuraciones, ¿eh? Y de hecho, todas las configuraciones, y aquí he puesto una, pero podía poner 0 y cogía por defecto los 20 que hay, pero hay muchas más. Hay decenas de configuraciones que puede hacer. Es un poco largo explicarle en una charla porque son decenas de propiedades por cada objeto, pero sí puedo hacer fine-tuning de todas las propiedades de todos los objetos. tantos como el vector story, por ejemplo, he usado uno de Postgre, podría haber usado cualquier otro, puedo cambiar cualquier configuración. Eso es lo de siempre, Spring Framework siempre funciona así.
I just want to clarify this memory concept because I'm not sure if I understand it correctly. The model itself, it is always stateless, right? So you just, when you include memory, you just send, basically dump the whole history of messages and send it to the model in order to get the response. So that's what, or the memory means that like there is some kind of memory on the side of the model that you're calling.
Yeah, I will try to use another diagram, which is not quite the same, but I can explain the same thing, which is this one. Instead of vector story, imagine that this is the memory function. So I received the question from the user. I have into the database all the conversation, the previous conversation. It's my application, Spring AI, that it's adding in the question all the previous conversation, question and answer, and send it to the LLM that it's going to answer it. So the LLM, it's always stateless.
This on the side of the application, it just compiles all the whole conversation and sends it as a request, as a single request. And the same goes for embeddings.
Exactly, it's Spring AI that it's doing this under the hood for us. It's not LLM, it's not our application, it's the Spring AI framework.
Okay.
So if there are no other questions, maybe we can go to the second talk.
Let's go. Thank you, Raffaele. If anyone has any more questions, is there like a place where they can reach out to you, maybe?
Sure, you can contact me to my LinkedIn profile, it's in the presentation. Otherwise, Raffaele Auriemma, ERNI, it's my profile in LinkedIn.
Thank you so much. Let me see. Let me turn on the slideshow and then let me share my screen right here. So we got it. Yes, great. I think I'm hitting the microphone, so let me just move it over here so I don't make like weird noises. So welcome. We're gonna be talking about OpenTofu. Has anybody had the chance to use Terraform in here? Yes, great. A lot of people. Have you ever had the chance to test OpenTofu or like fool around with it a bit? Okay, we got one person. With me, that makes two. Great. So, oh, you also. So it's three of us. Nice. So let's start from the beginning. Who am I? I am Christian Polanco. I am a member of the CNCF team here in Barcelona. We do talks we try to make it every 2 months. Sometimes it's like every each month. It depends on how well the community is feeling. So we're doing something next month, as I said again. But if you want to reach out to me, I am available in many places. I also write. I also tweet on Blue Sky because I abandoned Twitter when I lost all hope. And so I'm around. Reach out. I am very interested in talking to you. And I am also looking for a job. So if you have open positions, reach out because I need to pay rent. Moving forward. Basically, I think you just should switch to OpenTofu and just drop it. It's better, it's easier, it's managed by the community. The CNCF is not paying me to say this. So thank you for your time. The pizzas are outside. No. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, no. I'm gonna drag you guys for like 30 more minutes until the pizza arrives, and then I'll be the first one to leave. So yeah, so anyone who doesn't know really what happened, at some point in 2023, Terraform, which is owned by HashiCorp, decided that they will be switching their license to BSL, a business standard license, which basically gives them ownership over all the code that was built in, up to that point was built in an open source manner. So people were contributing to it for free, and then they were like mine. Which people didn't really like. And it came out of a business decision, because since Terraform was open source up until that point, anyone could provide services through Terraform. which created a lot of competing services to Terraform Cloud and like all the consulting services that HashiCorp offers over Terraform. So they were like, no, we need to protect our IP, so we're gonna close the business down a little bit. Of course, there's like a very heavy ecosystem around Terraform of things that are like now in a gray legal area. A lot of tools like you probably could recognize called like Atlantis or TerraGround, were like now in this gray area where they are like in a competing kind of business situation. And at any point, Terraform can come and be like, oh yeah, no, now I have a feature that competes directly with what you're offering, so you're not like you cannot use Terraform anymore or like support Terraform at all. So the community didn't like that, and basically OpenTofu was born as an open source alternative to this whole situation. OpenTofu was at its birth adopted by the CNCF, so it's now like the whole thing that the CNCF like protects, and it has like all the standards of having at least 2 developers assigned for maintenance that the CNCF offers to everything. So it's like now the community solution to this whole problem, and basically that's kind of how it went. OpenTofu obviously is completely open source, it's managed by the community, and it's gonna be like that for all the foreseeable future. I don't trust in the future anymore, but at least for the time that is like relevant to us, it's gonna stay like that. That I can say confidently. So what is the difference? And honestly, pretty much none. I think that up to today, as someone who performed a migration from Terraform to OpenTofu like 2-3 months ago, the only thing that I have noticed that behaves differently because it was implemented differently by like at different points by each tool is the remove block. So basically in Terraform, if you're not experienced with Terraform, there are blocks where you can add like instructions on how to Terraform operate like the state of all your infrastructure and all your resources. And the way, and sometimes you have like blocks that don't do really anything, but like instruct behavior to Terraform. And like one of them is like telling Terraform to remove things from the state. And that kind of works differently. And that's about it. Really, really, really pretty much the same. You can literally just like swap one with the other and it will work. Now, it's actually easier moving from Terraform to Tofu because right now Tofu supports everything that Terraform does, but not the other way around. As Terraform has started implementing things, Tofu has started implementing things that Terraform doesn't support anymore. So we're gonna get to that because there's a lot of things that you should consider regarding the ecosystem of each environment if you really want to make the switch or if you want to stay. As things are starting to like drift apart and things are starting to separate, I think the key factors are not really in the features or like what a tool can do over the other. It's more about what exactly are you expecting from the environment around that particular tool and the people that work and support it. As I said before, OpenTofu is a CNCF project, so it's community maintained, and basically the needs that it has is based on what the community has been requesting. It's been known that there are issues with Terraform, like you couldn't use HTTPS packages if you were running in a Mac OS environment for like decades, for like years, and they never fixed it. It's still broken in Terraform, and it's like it was fixed on year 1 in OpenTofu. So this is the kind of stuff that we're talking about here. It's really like what is a priority and what not. And like most people don't use Terraform in like OS X environment, so they were like, we're not gonna prioritize this. But like in the community, everyone can just like send a pull request, and it's like, it works. Let's go. But yeah, basically, there's 3 things that I want to highlight. Oh wait, this is okay. So I fucked up these 2 slides. So these are feature differences. These are not the ecosystem. Sorry about that. My bad. So basically, I think the 3 big things in terms of features that I would say is like what highlights Tofu over Terraform at this point is that they are very big on third-party support. Like people can build things on top of OpenTofu, and it's like it's how it works. The thing is open source. You're supposed to do whatever you want with it, and nobody can like really say anything. It's not really owned by anyone. It's a community maintained thing. The issues are community ranked, so people vote on issues, and those issues are prioritized for releases. Things have moved fast, like way faster on OpenTofu than they do on Terraform. And one thing that I think is so crucial, if you have worked with Terraform, you know this, early variable loading. The thing is that there are certain things in Terraform that you cannot change, that they need to be a static value because they are evaluated at the point where variables are not still like being processed by the HCL processor. So for example, you cannot like change your state configuration using variables. You have to like statically predefine all those values. But with OpenTofu, those things can be loaded from the variable and from the variables from the beginning, which makes like so easy to have configuration for multiple environments. And instead of having like a separate configuration file for every environment, now you can just like have the variables that you need to change around. And it's so much less work. Like it's a life changer, at least for me. But the other thing, oh shit, I really messed up these 2 slides. I am really sorry. So I will just go over the ecosystem differences because I want to over features. But basically in the ecosystem things, it's more about the community really, and it's more about like what you can do with one thing and what you can do with the other. Terraform really is more like focused to their clients. People pay for Terraform, people pay for all the for like support, and those people will always get priority over the people who are like the community or using Terraform in a free sense. You are not in violation of contract if you're just using Terraform to deploy things and not paying for it. You don't have to pay for Terraform because the BSL license allows it. You are not really like in the gray area. If you have a cloud-based service and you're trying to do a business that is like in the IAC kind of area of the business, you might have to read better what you offer and what you're doing because you might end up in like a competing situation, and Terraform HashiCorp might ask you to like cease and desist, which is a problem because like having to switch tools rushingly is also like a problem because you have to basically change a lot of things around, and that can bring like downtime or issues or like broken features for clients. You really don't want any of that. But again, if your company is like a sales company, or you guys do like you sell like hospital stuff, I don't know, think something completely different of like building cloud stuff, you're pretty much in the green and you don't really have to worry about it. But think about also how much provider dependency is a problem. And if you also are like someone who grows into a single provider, that probably won't prioritize you, especially if you're not like a paying customer. You also have to think what happens if you have an issue and you no longer cannot like fix it yourself, or you cannot like propose the solution. That is like the trade-offs that you have to weigh out. It's not also that you have to like dedicate your time to contribute to open source and like also make Tofu like a better tool, but you have to weigh, if you really want to work on these things, if you really want to invest time in a tool that you don't have control of any at all, and you cannot like say, oh, I need this fix, or the risk, or running the risk of like having to pay for like express support because you need a problem fixed in production right now, and it's like you have identified that the tool is broken. There's things to weigh off also. Like I'm not saying like open source is perfect or like the CNCF is perfect. Things sometimes take some time to fix. I've seen fixes that take weeks or months to get approved because like it brings a lot of conversation, or like the provider says like the maintainers are like, oh, we tried this and it didn't really work. We caused a lot of issues, and now we have to like sort out a new solution. So it's like there's a lot of back and forth. So I'm not saying like each side it's like the open source size is perfect, but you need to weigh in on like, you really need to sit down and think, what is the solution that fits my necessities the best. That's kind of where it boils down, right? But basically what I want to lay down, the migration part is probably the easiest if you're migrating from Terraform to Tofu. I don't know why you would do it the other way around. but unless you got like a very sweet deal in HashiCorp or you just got bought by HashiCorp. But yeah, it's pretty much just switch tofu in all of your environments, and it kind of works. It really works very, very, very well. But if you're thinking of migrating, and I think this is a really great time to do it because the drifting is not that different in terms of like utility. I have some tips. First of all, you have to make sure that the tooling that you have around yourself is has support for OpenTofu. I We had to swap a few things, like in the migration that we did at my previous job. We had to switch a few things around because some of our CI tooling that we used to like assess that the plan wasn't changing anything critical. Um, Broke, so we needed to find an alternative. Thankfully, there was like this GitHub action that we could like reuse, which is like TF action or something like that that has like support for both Terraform and OpenTofu, and that way we could like process the whole um, output plan, get a summary, see that we're not breaking anything, and like automatically approve PRs back again. But you need to make sure, like for us, that was a minimal change, but you need to make sure that everything that you're using has proper support for OpenTofu, as things might be a little bit different over time. But I say there's a caveat to that, and it's like if you're not using Terraform above 1.5, if you're like in Terraform 1.5, you for sure can make the switch without any issue, and everything will work. I say start in less impactful environments. I think this kind of goes without saying, but still test things in like lower risk environments. Make sure that everything is the states files are properly stored, that everything that you change actually showing the changes that you expect, or better, even better, that you see no changes detected in the output file when you run the plan or the apply. And one last thing is like make sure that you have the backup of your state files before switching. If you're using S3, you should already have like file history enabled. So every time you make the changes to your state files, it's like every version is stored. That's one thing. But if you're using another storage, then make sure that before switching, you always make a backup. Moving forward, if this wants to change here. Is there any reason to stay in Terraform? As I've been saying, there are a few things why you should consider staying in Terraform. If you have like very good support from HashiCorp, your company already pays for like the HashiCorp support, or you guys are like very ingrained in Terraform Cloud because you pay for the service, I think it's not worth it to like bring that much disruption into your like workflows for the sake of like using the new thingy. There's not that much difference in how they work intrinsically. I don't think at this point you really have that much to like win out of moving over. That's pretty much it. It's like if you have like anything that already works, don't stress too much about it. If you really want to support open source things or like you want like provider dependency, then maybe moving is the solution, but not really. If things work, it's perfectly fine to stay where you are right now. It's a dead game. Don't really push it too far. But basically, my conclusion is that you are not late to jump if you really want to try. If you really want to open like this test PR, laboratory PR in your environments, see how it works. If you want to toy around with tofu, there's a lot of like nice new features that they have been adding. For example, now you can like not only encrypt values and secrets in the state file, but Tofu offers you to encrypt the whole state file at rest, which is a thing that Terraform has refused to support for years. Nobody knows why. So those are like really nice features that are getting added, and I think that what I want from you guys now is questions, because I'm ready to support you, and we got like 10 more minutes to fill.
More than a question first, I mean, a comment is like I remember also the HashiCorp was bought by who? IBM.
IBM.
So now the probability is drifting towards being IBM has a very strong reason for buying HashiCorp. But you can imagine that now there is a layer of priority. There were basically anybody who cannot bring like a 100 billion bill on the table is like you don't even exist. So
Yeah.
I think that is going to be worse over the time. It's not a fault of the former Terraform maintainers or the Terraform maintainers. Just basically business is different now. The business model for IBM is large corporation, and the priority is going to be their priority. So if you're a startup and you have certain requirement, I don't think you
Tough luck.
have any leverage there. And then the question. You mentioned at the beginning that all these things started because people like TerraGround, they were affected by this change. Do you know what happened with them? They adopted OpenTofu?
Yeah, they're like one of the main supporters of OpenTofu right now. They and the Atlantis team are very, very involved in the support of OpenTofu because they are in this gray area. Terraform hasn't come after them. They still support both things, but like everyone is like waiting for the moment where they're like, oh yeah, we no longer support Terraform. Kind of like when Kubernetes dropped Docker as the default like container runtime. They were like, yeah, this has to happen at some point. Yes.
So I use Terraform quite a lot, and on its own, it's not very useful, but you can use a lot of providers.
Yeah.
I just had a quick look on your providers page, and like the AWS provider is provided by HashiCorp, and you just rip all of the providers from the existing registry and put it on your registry, or how does it work?
Yeah. So the thing is that the only thing that went private on the BSL license.
So far.
Yeah, so far, is Terraform itself, the Terraform code. The providers are still open source. So far, yeah. No guarantees over time, but that is the thing is that all the providers were forked by OpenTofu.
There are forks.
Yeah, they are forked, and OpenTofu maintains its own providers now.
But
Not
the AWS providers, there's a release every week. How do you keep up with something like that? Because
this is.
Is it keeping up with the AWS providers?
The thing is that you can keep them synced at this point.
Yeah.
You can just like you can just pull.
You to be syncing it constantly.
Yeah. Because they're still open source and the providers are open source. So far. Again. Yeah. We'll see how the cookie crumbles over.
And still use Terraform, and it all works. So far. So I've never had a reason to use OpenTofu.
Again, I don't think there's a reason to move like today. Like there's not like a breaking feature yet. We don't have that. It's been 2 years only, but I kind of wanted to make this presentation because of that, because it's been 2 years and it's been like very, very peaceful. And to the point where people kind of don't even remember that OpenTofu is a thing. But I wanted to highlight, like, it's okay. If you decide to stay, I think it's going to be fine for at least a few more years, probably. But like.
Sorry, the thing they're trying to avoid is the Redis moment.
Huh?
They're trying probably Terraform to avoid this Redis moment. Redis did the same shit, and then people say, "Oh, really?" And then before.
Yeah.
And Filipe just left the company, and then they were like, "What the hell is going on?" And nobody was taking care of Redis anymore. And
yeah.
The Terraform learned that you cannot be so aggressive with the open source.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, this is the start of your funnel of business.
Yeah.
People always start open source, and they got probably it's peaceful because they learned from other projects that were too aggressive, moving in that direction, and then.
Yeah, I think that the thing is that they pretty much just wanted to. I know that the reason why they switched the license is because they wanted to have a way to like block everyone to providing a Terraform Cloud alternative, basically. So anything that is not competing with Terraform Cloud is really like anything that they are like considering. But given the license and how it is written, they have a lot of power over what they can do with Terraform right now. So it's like if they decide to open a feature that suddenly competes with what the business that you've been building for like 8 years, they can just take you down. They can be like, you can no longer support Terraform. And it's like, what am I supposed to do with all my clients now? Just like throw them in the trash? So that's kind of where the gray area is and why OpenTofu was born. It's like we need something that is not depending on this business surviving. Like I mean, sure, get your money, but you cannot like take everything that the community built and then just take it away for yourself just because you feel like it. And Terraform was open source until version 1.6. In fact, you can still like fork version 1.5 because that version is legally open source.
It's interesting how they could manage to change the license. I can never understood how they could do that because people contributed or
Yeah.
I mean the providers are harder because many of them are actually initially developed outside the Terraform company. Many of them.
And many providers are managed by the companies themselves. Like, for example, the Cloudflare or the Grafana provider are provided by Grafana and Cloudflare.
But the core one still had significant contribution from the community. So I always wonder how this company can actually make those changes in the licensing. I suppose because there is no way for the community to organize and make like a class action
lawsuit
or to pay the lawyers to sue them to test it in court.
And often you sign that you're like giving up copyright claims and basically donating your intellectual work when doing contributions.
Yeah.
It's quite common even for CNCF.
Yeah, you. I think that is the thing because the times I've contributed to Terraform, I had to sign like a giving my rights away clearance document. Oh, and I was saying like, yeah, sure, this code is yours, basically.
But this doesn't happen with Elastic change because they have the MIT license for the kind of I don't know how strong is the Mozilla public license for doing the same. Obviously, if there was GPL, they cannot do it.
Yeah.
Because GPL is a viral license. Because I don't know how it works the Mozilla one. I cannot. It's a maybe it works like NIT, you know. You can fork and never delivery for free.
We should do a licensing workshop.
Yeah, that's actually thinking that that's not a bad idea. We need to find out someone who really knows this speed because
I'm gonna call some lawyers. Any more questions, guys? Anyone's trying to move? Everyone's tested it? Anything? Toyed around with it? Anyone's worried about anything? How much time we got? We got 8 more minutes. So, okay. So since we got more time and I have to fill up time. Okay. So you're seeing my screen. I think I have it right here. Is it? There's this the Pulumi guys, which is a direct competition with both Terraform and OpenTofu, have this very comprehensive document that I think you should check out if you have the time. That goes over like the key differences in licensing and like what you can expect from one and the other. I think that if you're trying to talk with your teammates about what you want and not, I 100% recommend you go over this document. Just write Pulumi, Terraform, OpenTofu in Google, and it will show up. Basically, it goes over like what you can expect in like what functionalities they offer. Like the language is the same. You can see that they still have the same license. What is supported, what is not. If they have like dynamic provider support. If like they have integration tests or not. There's kind of like a unit test thingy kind of going on. I think this document is a little bit outdated in that regard because I can go over. You can test with Terraform now, and with OpenTofu, there's an instruction like tofu test or like Terraform test that will run like a little bit of like a few tests. You can treat them as unitary tests, as you can read from outputs with them, or you can treat them as integration tests because there's like testing modules inside that. It's a whole world. I'm planning on doing a talk only on that. What? I'm wasting time.
I mean, this talk because it's not the first time you mentioned that.
No, I'm upset.
I'm waiting for that talk.
No. The one which we're talking about is like testing Kubernetes clusters, which you went ahead already with, which is a separate thing. But like testing with Terraform is its whole unit.
Now we have witnesses that
Full circle. Okay, so.
That is something that is missing in that. Like, yeah, you have the plan. Who can read, 2000 line of plan.
No, nobody reads this. And don't think of like giving it to an LLM and asking it if everything is all right. Don't. Don't. I mean, you can have it like to process like maybe the highlight things, but there's like summary generators already that don't use like API calls to LLMs because the output is standardized, so you don't really need to send it to an LLM. Like you can have things like bring you the most critical things already. So you don't need an LLM to read your Terraform plan, I promise. But making sure that you're not breaking anything or that things broke, or like if you deploy something with Terraform that things are like actually reachable, or like you can do like a netcat to the server that you can actually make sure that you can connect. Those things you can do it in Terraform. Like it's totally doable right now. You can in Tofu and Terraform, both of them. I've been toying with it, so yeah, I'm excited about that one. We have March full, February full, but let's see if we have time in March and April. So it's over 55. I think I can drop you guys here. Thank you for your time. I think we can, yeah, finish it up here. I know the pizzas are still not here, but you guys can social. Oh, they are here. Great, beautiful. If not, you guys can talk to each other. I know you guys don't like that, but like, go ahead. That's what really this is supposed to be for. So again, thank you guys at ERNI for having us here, and see you next time. See you in February.